Welcome back to the vlog. Welcome here to Aira, Papua New Guinea. I'm doing a 2-hour flight over open water. That's why I've got George in my vest here with me today, out to Hoskins. And I'm going to talk with you guys about what I feel like is probably the most important thing as far as becoming the best pilot you can be. And it's probably not what you think. So let's go ahead and get started and then we'll get into that. Igniter's on, fuel pump on. Go start, fuel's already on. Over 14% NG. I'll introduce our low fuel. Google that if you don't know what it is. And ITT peaks out at 170 degrees Celsius. Generator on. Up forward. Or V2 on. Generator on. Alternator on. Auxiliary bus on. Now let's go ahead and taxi to the top. This other plane next to me is getting going too, so. All stations Aira 120.7 November Tango Zulu. Taxiing Aira for Hoskins. We'll be on climb 17,000. OSB 6622 November Tango Zulu. Taxi.
November Tango Zulu, what's that?
November Tango Zulu, taxi Aira Hoskins, 1 POB, copy Sierra India Romeo.
November Tango Zulu, no additional report traffic.
November Tango Zulu. Well, it's going to be just an absolute gorgeous day on the way out there. 2-hour flight, well maybe not quite 2 hours from Aira, it's 2 hours from Grug, it's probably an hour and 45 minutes or so. Our trim is already set up, we'll be 50 knots. Oh man, I did a lot of dusting out there. Anyways, I'm blowing a bunch of dust into their hangar. We'll be airspeed alive by that plane up there on the left, otherwise we'll stay on the runway after takeoff. Pitch for 85 knots, consider EPL, consider feather. 85, then 80 full flaps. And make my call on 1207. Ignition, inlet. Lights, high idle, 20 degrees, we're at 5,000. So same as Goroka, 1390 for 1440. Mission condition, flaps 20, fuel and harnesses. Checklist is complete. All stations Aira 1207 November Tango Zulu, departing Aira for Hoskins. 1390. Fork is set. A bug just splattered right in my right in my view. There we go. There's 50 continuing. There's airborne.
Back taxi for departure to the southeast.
Just 2 knots of headwind. Feeling heavy though. Really heavy. We're going out. We're almost full up. There we go. I will go ahead and pitch for 85 knots. Make sure I have TAWs off, otherwise Betty will start yelling at me that there's terrain ahead. And we'll make a right-hand turn just so we're not flying over top of the town of Aira.
Stations Aira, Sierra India Romeo is rolling for departure. Will be departing to the southeast.
If you grew up here, I actually have a cool shirt that has the airstrip chart. It's like topographical. I'll throw it up on the screen for you guys, but yeah. If you grew up here, I know some of my viewers actually grew up here, so at Aira. And we'll pitch for 100 knots for our best rate of climb, all the way up to 17,000 feet today. OSB 6622 November
500.
Zulu, departure.
Stations Aira, Sierra India Romeo is departing Pacific area to the southeast, passing 5,500 and climb 7,000.
November Tango Zulu departed Aira, time 09er, tracking 068 on climb 17,000. Estimating a beam, Wasu, time 42.
November Tango Zulu, remain OCTA, standby for clearance.
Remain OCTA, standby for clearance, November Tango Zulu. Alright, so what he's basically saying is stay out of Aira's, or not Aira's, out of NADZAB's airspace. So let me see what altitudes those start at. That starts at 13,000, that one started at 8,000, so I'll just level off here at 7,000. go ahead and, once we get our airspeed up, we'll go ahead and bring our power lever back too. But for the time being, I think what I'm going to do is just throw this piece of paper up here.
November Tango Zulu Mosby code is 0331.
Code 0331, November Tango Zulu. Alright. Code 0331. And 0331. Well, he gave me the code, but he still doesn't give me any clearance. Typically what they'll do is they'll have me contact ADZAB approach when I get to a certain distance and stuff. Well, I wanted to talk to you guys about what I feel is like the most important element that's going to make you the absolute best pilot, and it's not manual aircraft control. If you guys are familiar with the KSAs or the KSSAs, you can Google it, but basically it's kind of the trend that a lot of companies and aviation organizations are going to start training their pilots, and that's the route that we're going as well, to start training our pilots. Basically it breaks down 10 different elements dealing with flying, like, you know, manual aircraft control. That's one of them. That's probably one of the lower ones, and I'll put up something on the screen just to kind of break them down as far as basically the ones on the bottom, like your communication, your manual aircraft control, your leadership and teamwork, like knowledge, application of knowledge. All those ones are like the lower tiered ones, and the higher you get on this little pyramid basically is...
November Tango Zulu Mosby check on 120.7.
Yeah, reading is strength 5, go ahead with clearance. November Tango Zulu.
November Tango Zulu, confirm required clearance on climb 17000.
Affirmative, will be going through the airspace. We'll be climbing through the airspace.
November Tango Zulu, ATC clearance to enter control area. Track IRA coach and transit control area. Track IRA wants to land with Hoskins. And on climb 17000.
Go to inter-controlled airspace. The IRA wants to then flight plan on climb 17000, November Tango Zulu.
November Tango Zulu.
Continue on our climb, bumper ITT back up to 720. And go ahead and get our climb going, because this is what I have planned for my fuel, is 17,000, not 7,000.
And November Tango Zulu, contact ladder approach now, 118.6.
Heads up approach now, November Tango Zulu. Heads up approach, November Tango Zulu.
November Tango Zulu, heads up approach, can I go ahead?
Okay, November Tango Zulu is currently 66, or correction, standby. November Tango Zulu is currently passing 7,600 on climb 17000, squawking 0331 for Ayura, Wasu, then on to Hoskins.
November Tango Zulu, your distance, Nazar.
Stand by, November Tango Zulu. Heads up approach, November Tango Zulu, 38 miles on the 300 radio.
November Tango Zulu, thanks. Contact Mosby now on 1239 HF 88615565.
123.9, 88615565 now, November Tango Zulu. Mors B 123.9, November Tango Zulu.
November Tango Zulu, this is Mosby, go ahead.
And heads up approach, handed me back to you. Now passing 8,800 on climb 17000, estimating Wasu 42.
November Tango Zulu. Area QNH 1009, secondary 5565 or 8861.
1009 5565 8861, November Tango Zulu. So what I believe is the absolute main thing is your threat and air management skills. That's going to make you the best pilot. It's not going to be like your, you know, stick and rudder skills. That's going to make you a skilled pilot, but it's not going to make you a safe, good pilot. If you're wondering, well, how can I increase my good threat and air management skills? How can I become a better, safer pilot if I don't really know what to be thinking about or what to be doing? So really, I think that it's if you can be 2 to 3 steps ahead of the aircraft at all times, you're going to be a safer pilot. You're continually thinking of what could go wrong. What are my potential threats that are coming up in the next, from here to Oahu? What are some potential threats? Well, the fact that my workload is up because I'm having to switch back and forth with radios. I was having a problem with this stupid thing down here. I had to hit PDF down here. My bearing, it was on GPS. Okay, this is my profile, so I was like, what the heck? Why is it on GPS and GPS? So it just took me a second to be like, okay, how do I go back in and change that? Because I don't ever change it because it's always the same. And I had to get it on NADZAB so I could tell him how far I was from him. So just little things like that. As your workload management goes up, that's when, potential errors could start happening because now your brain is focusing on something else and your eyes are in here and you're not looking outside. I have my terrain awareness system turned off because I was going out of Aira. I turn that back on now. I'm at 7,000 feet instead of climbing up to 17. So anyways, that's where these things start coming to play, is really keeping ahead of the aircraft to remain safe. So anyways, yeah, and then from there on out to Hoskins, it's supposed to be a beautiful day, but if there was weather, maybe one of the threats might be, where is my freezing levels today? It's a nice warm sunny day, so they're potentially going to be probably around 16,000 feet. So if I was going, IMC through some clouds, there's a potential that I could pick up icing. That's going to be another threat. And how long am I going to have to be IMC for and potentially picking up icing, or do I need to go down? Different things like that. So also another thing that is a little bit different just in the aspect of bush flying is going into some of these bush locations. Like there's some of them that are more difficult than others, obviously, and it's not always like the steepness of the slope or the shortness of the airstrip or the length. Some of them are just because of the winds that are associated with that area make it more difficult. So one thing that I used to do, and still sometimes will do, is just mentally like armchair flying. So, what I would do when I first started here, if I was going into a place that I would consider difficult, that morning, I'd spend like just 2 minutes visualizing exactly what I'd do as I'd visualize myself flying into the pattern, what I'd be doing as I come in, nailing my airspeed perfect all the way down, visualizing exactly what it looked like, when I would start pulling power, when I'd start flaring, matching the slope, all those different things. And then when I'd actually fly it, I've already flown it through in my head one time. And athletes, professional athletes do the exact same thing. I remember Shaun White, a snowboarder, he talked about doing this as he would do his tricks. He would visualize exactly what he would do and nailing the landing. And it actually does work. It sounds a little odd, but Joe, it really does pay off when you do some armchair flying, and it really does increase your own threat and air management because your mind can free yourself up. If your workload management is really thick and you're doing maybe an IFR approach and there's a lot of traffic, all these other things are going to start suffering, including your manual aircraft control, just because your mind is focusing on one or two different things that it is, and it's negating a lot of the other things. If you're thinking like, well, what can I do to lower my workload management? Basically, what can I do to free up my brain to be able to get to the point where I can be a few steps ahead? One thing that I've done, personally, and you can also use this if you're a flight simmer, but is you start looking for trends as far as power settings to get you the result that you want. So we fly instrument approaches in this with full prop forward 10 degrees at 110 knots. But if you don't know what kind of power setting is going to give you that 110 knots, and it does vary if you have like a really heavy airplane as opposed to a really light airplane, but not by much. If you know the power setting, it's going to reduce that workload, and then it's going to be able to increase your threat and air management skills. So you're going to free your brain up so that you can not make as many errors while you're flying an instrument approach. So I know that if I fly 800 foot-pounds of torque, or very close, within like plus or minus 50 foot-pounds of torque, it's going to give me 110 knots with those settings. And basically, when I get to my final approach fix, I'm heading down on the ILS or whatever, immediately start bring my torque back to 400 foot-pounds of torque, plus or minus 50, and that's going to give me still the 110 knots on my descent with a nice 500 feet per minute descent. So if you know these kinds of things, you can do this in any airplane. you can just start looking for these different trends to give you the results that you want. We're just now coming up to 17,000 feet. I'm going to let my airspeed, once I level off, get my airspeed all the way up to about 117, 118 knots. Also, I'm just taking a little bit of my right rudder pressure I had in climb out now that we're leveling off. All right, we've got about 117 knots, just creeping up on it now. I'm going to go ahead and bring my power lever here back. As you can see, my ITT is right at 720, my prop's at 2,000. So I'm going to be watching my ITT now and bring that back down to 700. I'll let it sit there for a few seconds and then make some small adjustments and get as close to 700 as I can.
Vertical track.
All right, that's my cue to head on down. What I'm going to do is hit my vertical speed here, turn this all the way down to 1,000 feet per minute. Then I'm going to turn this knob here all the way down to 1,000 feet. And then hit my vertical speed and altitude select together. Then you guys can see up here it has my altitude select set up and my vertical speed. So basically altitude is like on standby, the vertical speed is green, and that's what's active. Let me get myself coordinated now. And then this little blue arc right here tells me when I'm going to get to 1,000 feet. So clearly,
Mosby on 124.1.
All stations, Hoskins 124.1 and Alpha Tango Delta, November Tango Zulu, 38 miles to run. Hoskins, passing 15,600, estimating circuit time 03, and currently on the 250 radio. We're 10 minutes out, my fuel selectors are good, our TAWS is still enabled, our VREF. We're going to be landing at 6,400 pounds, so 70 knots. Flight center will get, all the rest will get closer. If you guys want one of these, I have worldwide shipping available as well as for these sunglasses. But I've got these in silver and gold glass lenses, really awesome. Anyways, yeah, I've got these on my website and I do worldwide shipping. And as long as the United States Postal Service doesn't have any restrictions for your country, I've had good luck with getting it to everywhere I needed to. I have these for turbine as well as piston, and I'm going to be coming out with other base plates that you guys can interchange if you are a flight simmer, or if you're flying a 152 one day and you're flying a multi-engine the next day with gear and stuff like that, you can change them out. It's a little bit of work because you take out the toggle switches, but you can do it though in about 5 minutes. All stations, Hoskins 127.1 and Alpha Tango Delta, November Tango Zulu 10 miles on the 250 radio, passing 5,200. We'll be tracking for an overhead for a left downwind, runway 12 Hoskins. Estimating Hoskins 03. All stations, Hoskins, November Tango Zulu. Joining the circuit, we'll be flying overhead for a left downwind, runway 12 Hoskins. The nice thing about these is that you can kind of bounce around a little bit instead of having a paper checklist where you have to go boom, boom, boom. And sometimes, you know, you might get a clearance or something else before, and so this allows you to quickly visually see you've got everything that you need to for a landing. Sometimes, you know, if you forget, oh, did I get my landing clearance? You can quickly look real quick just to see, yes, they did give it to me. All right, looks like the wind is kind of coming out from this direction, maybe 3 to 5 knots. 10 degrees of flaps, engine into bypass, 20 degrees of flaps, and we'll leave our torque right around 400, 350 to 400. We're fairly light out today. So I like to land right on the threshold basically and try to stop by usually the first taxiway, but I think I have too much fuel. I don't really feel like warping my brakes today. It is fun when you're completely empty and have no seats. It's a really fun challenge to do. There's 700. On our base, we went 70 knots, so I'm slowing down to 80 knots now. Go full flaps. Checklist is complete. I'm actually going to turn final maybe around 400 because I'm a little bit closer on this one than normal. There's 460. And looking for 70 knots. 4 knots of headwind, 7 knots of crosswind. Checklist is complete. thanks guys for joining on that flight. Hope you guys learned something valuable and on how you might become a better pilot just by being able to lower your workload and increase your threat and air management. Let's go ahead and shut down. All right, see you next time. Thanks for watching.